Welcome to Trial by Wine. We take a closer look at crimes that highlight how fascinating humans can be. Schmitty, Swanny and Clarkey visit crimes and run them through their jury of three, debating both sides of the case to agree an appropriate, if totally fictitious, sentence. Please be advised, Trial by Wine may include explicit or disturbing content and will include drunken rambling. Listener discretion is advised. All right, how are we?
Very well, thank you. And yourselves? How is everyone?
Good.
Busy. Great. So good. What day is it?
Today's Wednesday.
Wednesday.
As we record. Yeah.
Yes. All right. Well, we're halfway through, so happy hump day.
I wish it doesn't quite work like that when you're on school holidays.
I was telling
Schmitty beforehand that I may have screamed at a child this morning over the washing basket thing. I just lost my cool. Really lost my cool, and it was
deserved. The way the story went, I felt it was deserved. It was an appropriate reaction.
I may have got a little OTT, but anyway, I did it.
What I learned in the occupational violence course that you two like to laugh about was that appropriate response is okay. And I feel like the amount of disrespect shown by said child, basically was matched by the response that you gave. It's not like you picked up a chair and bludgeoned him. Like that would be inappropriate response, over the top. I'm trying to think of there's an expression for it where you really have responded way more than you should. And I don't think you did, in all fairness.
Well, I'm very glad that
you're off the hook. You're up the trial by wine jury, off the hook.
Yeah, that's how I like it.
I'm acquitting her. There's nothing to see here.
Yeah.
I'm not sure we have any other further stories other than it's school holidays and it's Swanny's favourite time of the year. As a result,
it's the most magical time of the year.
Yeah, brilliant.
So shall we introduce ourselves? I'm Schmitty.
I'm Swanny.
And I'm Blighty. I'm trying to enunciate as well as Schmitty just did. And together we are Trial by Wine.
Excellent. And what are we drinking?
Wine.
I think I know the answer to Swanny. She just put it down.
A fine bottle of Woolworths, what do we call it? Cost of living crisis soda water.
Crisis.
I was thinking about that after we recorded last time. It made me laugh to myself. I was like, oh.
That reminds me of a story that I could tell you. You can cut it out if it's not funny. But we have been building this new factory for work, and it's been going up over 6 months. But the person who has been building it for us was telling me that she's seen people coming and parking out the front and eating their KFC with their kids to have a look at the shed going up. And so, Swanny, your cost of living crisis reference made me remember that for me, I said to her, it's because the cinema's expensive, so we'll just take the kids to the local shed and eat our KFC.
That might well be the case. However, as the daughter of a master builder, there's every chance that my father would have taken us to look at the structure being, erected, fabricated, whatever, erected.
Because we were trying to think of another word other than erected.
It is erected. Yeah. Because my dad we used to be driven, it's a bit of a family joke that sometimes on a Sunday drive, we would go around and have a look at places that either dad had built or things that he liked that other people had built, usually structurally. So it wasn't even that it was a finished building. So a warehouse being built, well, that would have been on our bucket list for sure. My dad's bucket list.
I've literally started waving
absolutely.
at people.
Must be impressive.
It's pretty good. This woman parked out the front yesterday and she started taking photos. So I got my camera out and started taking photos of her. And when I saw the project manager today, I was saying, this woman pulled up. So I started taking photos of her. And she goes, what was she driving? I'm like, no, a silver four-wheel drivey thing. She goes, that's the owner.
Well, she'll be glad that you were on it and that you're, from a security point of view, looking after her assets. So there you go.
Hopefully.
Yeah. There you go.
And what are you drinking, boys?
Wine. It's been one of those days.
It sounds like you need a fair bit of it. Yeah.
Could have. Yeah. If we do 3, I'm going to be smashed. We are having one of our favourites, which we had the other week. It's Red Claw 2023 Pinot Noir from Mornington Peninsula.
Point Newer. Yeah.
Delicious. Point Newer, exactly.
Good. You're having a nice Point Newer, and I'm
How
on
about
a
yourself?
mango chutney.
Mango chutney.
So, who has a story for us today?
I do. I have a story, and I'm so excited to share it because this story really got me wound up a bit, and to the point where one of my children saw me watching something with headphones on, and I was apparently
Is that offensive?
making such noises that he came to me and said, "Why do you do this to yourself? Stop it. Just stop." But I was so worked up whilst I was watching this particular thing that I'd had it, why do you do it? And I was like, it's all right. It's not as bad as all that. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. But I was sort of like just really angry. Anyway, so my sources are, and again, I don't want to give it too much away up front, but my sources are The Guardian, the BBC, the Daily Mail, and then Emma Kenny, which is a YouTube channel, Murderpedia, and then there is a documentary episode that I saw, an episode of a series, I actually think. And I won't tell you the full name, but the beginning is Britain's Darkest Taboos, which I think
brilliant.
Which gives you a bit of,
I think it's going to have to be pretty good because there's a lot of kinky shit that happens in Britain, but sure.
That's so true. Weird old bunch. Right, so they are my sources. And I might just start by introducing a man by the name of Michael Philpott. So Michael Philpott was born in 1956 in Derbyshire in England, and he went on to live in Derby within that county. At the age of maybe about 20, he was in the army. And it was at this point that a young Michael, who would go by the name of Mick, met a young woman by the name of Kim Hill. Kim was very young. She was still at school. And when she met Mick, she was pretty impressed. He had a real swagger about him. You know, she was 15. He was, I don't know, I think I've read that he was 19 or 20, but let's say he was 19. And he was an army recruit. And he began this sort of relationship with her, basically said, I think we should start hanging out. She sort of ran into him in the street one day. And he came across as incredibly confident. And she was sort of like, oh my God, he likes me. And she said he just, made her feel really special, and she loved being around him. She felt really worldly, and they began a relationship. So that's all well and good, but the relationship turned sour quite quickly. And within early days, even months, he would want to know where she was, didn't like her going out, didn't like what she was wearing. All the textbook domestic violence things that we are so aware of.
Coercive control and all
of that stuff. But Mick Philpott kind of took it to another level. So Kim had said that she had been shot with a bow and arrow.
Jesus, what?
What?
Yep, when he didn't
By him?
Yes. Ron Jeremy, that escalated quickly.
Well, exactly.
I'm just from here on out, it's always Ron Jeremy.
No, he had kneecapped her with a sledgehammer.
Oh, Jesus.
Stop.
And also
from what you were saying to what she's saying.
I know. That's what I'm saying. This is just in their relationship. So she's at this age, probably 16.
Jesus.
When this is happening to her. So she's still at school. And the way she describes it, she's spending time with him. She's going to school, and she's got such massive sort of injuries and bruises and, marks on her that she's having to tell the school that because she's protecting him and scared of him, that she's got into a fight. So her parents are coming and collecting her at school, are going, how have you got into trouble again? Because she doesn't quite know how to deal with it. A, she's very young, and B, she's terrified of him, and his violence is escalating. So
he's 20, so 4 years difference.
Yeah. He, she's the schoolgirl essentially, and he's just this, young man going to the pub, army recruit, whatever else, and, pretty worldly guy, and just treated like absolute crap. In one situation she described where they were at the pub, and he was playing pool, and there was something that she did or said or looked, nothing really, and he hit her in the mouth. He hit her in the mouth with the end of the pool.
Ow! Oh.
And she started bleeding immediately, and she said nobody, not one man, not one man said anything. She said nobody said anything. She went to leave with, she was her cousin, I think, or a girlfriend. They went to leave the pub, and he came and got her, sat her back down, and she said she sat there just bleeding, and no one said a word, not one. They kind of like sniggered a bit. And then they got on with the game. And she was like bleeding from here after she'd been beaten in the mouth. So things were not great for Kim. And she had got to a point where she thought that she really had no choice but to try and get away from him and separate. So she sent him a letter and said, right, Mick, you know, I don't want to be in this relationship anymore. And I'm not sure that he took that message all that well.
Yeah.
So first of all, he asked her to come over and return his records, and she'd had some at his place. Anyway, so she took them over to his house and said, there you go. And he started saying, oh, you know, there's more missing or whatever else. And she said, there absolutely is not. This is everything. Mum's checked it. We know this is everything that's yours. Here you are. Thank you. Goodbye kind of thing. And he leant into her and said, this isn't the end. This is not the end of me. And she said that she had this like cold chill, and you know, she was able to get out and went back to her mum and said, oh, you know, she was just absolutely petrified of this man. Where I don't think I told you what year it was. Did I tell you at the beginning it was in 1978? No, I wouldn't.
I was going to ask.
I told you what age they were. Did you tell that? Yeah, so their relationship started in 76. We're now in 1978.
Then I thought maybe you had told us and I didn't look like
I hadn't. Apologies. That was my mistake. Right. So we're in that was really foolish of me. So now we're in 1978 and they've been going out for about 2 years.
Which does help with the context about the people in the bar not doing anything.
Yes. Yeah. The whole scene, if you think of it in that time, her age, him being older, all of that thing, her being even in a bar at that age, you know, all these things that were kind of things you could do at that point. Anyway, so in July of 1978, some, you know, weeks or a month or so after he's received a letter from Kim and she's called the whole thing off, Mick Philpott sneaks into her house. He rummages through. Actually, he waits until after her father has gone to work. He's a shift worker and the dad has left at about midnight. So he knows the movements of the family. Yeah. Dad leaves, so he knows that the mum's at home with the daughter. And he then sneaks in and apparently it takes a couple of hours. He goes through all their stuff downstairs, all their drawers, finding whatever he wants. And he finds a flick knife that was actually Kim's father's. He then proceeds to go upstairs, go into her bedroom, and she wakes up feeling that there's somebody in her bedroom. And it's him. And he jumps onto her. He holds his hand over her mouth and says, if you scream, you will die. And she said, what do you think? The first thing I did was they took my hand off. I screamed. And at which point he starts viciously attacking her with the blade that was her father's. Wow. He stabs her so many times. He slits her to because I can imagine that time it's slitting. He gets pretty much every one of her major organs. And she was stabbed 27 times all over, like just went crazy.
Jesus Christ.
She's made enough noise that her mum hears, so her mum approaches the room, at which point he then leaves Kim, who is alive and tries to get up. She falls on the ground. So, she's like falling off the bed, falling onto the bed kind of thing. She's sort of, well, I guess her life is draining out of her at that point.
Yeah.
He then goes after the mum and he's got her in the hallway. She's running out trying to, you know, go and get help. He then attacks the mum. He stabs the mother 11 times. In doing so, he also rips like the cord out of the wall from the telephone so they can't call anybody. Anyway, he then makes his way back upstairs and he takes the knife and he chooses to put it inside the top of her stomach, like under her rib cage, and rip it down and then basically leaves her for dead. Fortunately, her younger sister was in the house and her younger sister was able to contact the police. I believe it was through another phone in the house. I don't quite know how that worked, but they were able to call the police. And when the police arrived, they found him sitting covered in blood with the knife, just waiting for them. And do you know what he said? He said, I wouldn't bother. I've done a good job. They were the words that came out of a 20-year-old's mouth, having assumed that he had murdered his girlfriend. He didn't go there to hurt her and the mother, but certainly he was there to murder the girlfriend. So obviously he's arrested. He's there. Kim dies twice on the way to the hospital, and then after a week in a coma actually does survive. And
extraordinary.
She has the amount of injuries and the impact that it has had on her body is, I mean, you could only imagine if you've been stabbed 27 times and every major organ had been affected. And a lot of it's got to do with the scar tissue that she deals with.
Yep.
So there's a whole host of injuries and things that have happened. And, you know, let's not even talk about the mental side of it. That's just physically what has been done to her. So what do you think Mick Philpott will have got in terms of
5 months?
No, a little bit longer.
A year?
No. So attempted murder.
6 years.
And then grievous bodily harm. No, he got 7. 7 years. Remember, he thought that he had murdered her. He thought that it was done, that the job was done.
Entirely intentional.
Yeah, entirely. Premeditated, intentional, and it was just that she was able to survive it because he was sitting there He was sitting there waiting.
Yeah,
correct. And the consequence that was coming was not a deterrent because he didn't even try and run off and then pretend it was somebody else. All he cared about was the fact that she had to be murdered. Like that was it. That was the end of her. No more Kim.
She's not going to reject me. I own her.
That's very true. So that sends him away for 7 years. How long do you think he served?
3.
Very close. 3 years, 2 months.
Jeez.
I just cannot get my head around that.
There's not one of those serve 40% of your time, you get instant parole. Remember we were talking about that. It wasn't instant parole, but that's enough. We're all tired.
So for attempted murder, grievous bodily harm with intent, assault, occasioning actual bodily harm, that's what he got. He'd served 3 years, 2 months.
Should get longer.
And now I'm here to tell you, that's not even the story that we're here to listen to today.
No,
that's just a little bit of a precursor. Yeah.
Because he's a violent nutter and he should have been put away forever.
So that's Mick Philpott's backstory. Because when the world comes to know him, that is not part of the narrative. That's not what people are talking about when he comes to, become a little bit more, has a public profile. But we'll get to that. So that was 1978. And remember, he served 3 and a bit years. So by the beginning of the 80s, he's out, right? Free man, in his early 20s still, mid-20s, I guess, maybe. But, it's his whole life's ahead of him. Whole life. And imagine if you were Kim Hall and her mother. I mean,
you would never.
I've seen them interviewed, obviously, and
she has
safe. The most.
You'd always be terrified all the time too.
Kim has the most incredible color eyes I've ever seen. They're these bluey green in color, and she's not an attractive woman, but she's a woman who has had such a hard life. I don't even know what she ever would have really looked like if she hadn't. But it's just she wears her life, and you can see it. I can see in every part of her. It's her skin, it's her hair, it's her demeanor. They have had this life, and the thing that's wonderful is that she has had her family, and she said they were amazing and they've really stuck together, and I'm so pleased. Anyway, in what I saw was being, I'm sure her mum's passed, but her mum had been diagnosed with cancer, and she said, look, we're trying to spend our life together and do nice things and whatever else, and then she'd be weeping about how many times she'd gone into hospital, so many operations. It was just, she was a young girl. He said he totally ruined my life. And I have no doubt, not one single doubt that is true, both physically and mentally. For the fact that he got 3 years, or he only served 3 years, 2 months, that sets me off. That sets me off.
I'm sure there's more to come, but the fact that he's sitting there and announcing to the police, don't worry, I've done a good job.
I know.
Says no remorse. How do
Psychopath.
Yeah.
Psychopath.
No, I understand that. What I'm saying is, how do you, as the parole board or whoever it is, knowing the case, go, we're okay with that?
And that's a really good point, Clark. Again, I tried to find more about this particular case and I couldn't. I could only find interviews with her, which was all about what had happened versus what happened within the parole situation. And I did read somewhere that he showed no remorse. So I do not understand how that all was so tidily done and then you're out. As I said, so we're now in the early 80s. And he's been released from jail. And then I'm going to ask you to move forward to 1986 because I don't know what happens interim and it's neither here nor there. In 1986, Mick Philpott marries Pamela Lomax and they have 3 children, 2 sons and a daughter. Lomax says that
so they were together for more than a couple of months. So, he's done better the second time around.
Yeah. She said that he was controlling and that she just prayed that he'd find someone else, frankly. And very lucky for her wish was fulfilled when Philpott met Heather Keogh, who was 14. So on Heather's 16th birthday, she runs away from her parents to live with Philpott.
Oh, for God's sake, Heather. Shut up, Heather!
She gave birth to 2 children, both boys, in quick succession.
Oh, no.
But Philpott beat Keogh because he wanted a daughter. Keogh described Philpott's teaching of the older kids to be violent.
It's her fault
towards
sex of the children.
Yeah. I mean,
I think it's got something to do with his semen, actually.
I'd say science says otherwise, but anyway.
So I think that what happens with these pair is, I guess the relationship dissolves because she survives, but then there's sort of no further information on how that relationship ends. But we do know that, remember, he's had 3 children with Pamela Lomax.
He's got 2 more.
And 2 children with Heather Kehoe.
I'm pretty sure we can assume it ends badly.
Yeah. Well, things start to pick up a little bit in 2000.
Maybe found another 14-year-old.
Maybe. You can definitely see he has a type, right? He likes young women,
and controllable.
young as controllable. That's exactly right. Someone young, someone who's on their own, someone who's isolated, someone who's from troubled background. All that stuff adds up to like the perfect equation for him to shower his attention on them and then, be the man in control. In 2000, Philpott meets Mairead Duffy, and she's a 19-year-old single mum who was born in England, but she's of an Irish background, her family Irish. And she had left a previous volatile relationship and had a son. She moves into Philpott's house shortly thereafter, and they have this very highly sexual relationship. And the people that I've seen interviewed who were their friends said that he talked non-stop about, he said the man couldn't have a conversation that wasn't about sex. Every joke was about sex. It was his whole persona was sex, sex, sex. I'm getting it. I want it. I'm going to do this to her. She's this young, hot thing. She'll do anything for me. She'll do anything publicly for me. He was just a misogynist sex predator. It was just absolutely revolting. But Mairead just will do anything for him. By all accounts, she adores him, and she's like, "Oh my God, I'm so lucky. I've got this man in control, and he's just awesome." So whilst
lucky he left those other bitches and came to me because I can live my best life.
So remember, he's met Mairead in 2000, and it's all happening. However, in 2001, he meets Lisa Willis, and Lisa is at the time a 16-year-old orphan and single mother. And so what does she become? She becomes his mistress. Philpott invites Willis to move into the council house, which is larger than where she's living, in 2002. So 2000, he meets Mairead. 2001, he takes on Lisa Willis as his mistress. 2002, they all move in together in Philpott's council house. And what do you think happens in 2003?
One of them is murdered.
One of them dies.
No.
Another one.
No. Mick Philpott marries Mairead Duffy, and lovely Lisa Willis is the bridesmaid at the ceremony.
Oh, right.
So they are essentially in a quite public polyamorous relationship, and in terms of how they talk about
They're a throuple.
How they talk about the pub, how open they are about it, everybody knows. And how does this work? Well, I'm glad you asked. What happens
How
is
does this work?
he puts a caravan in the front yard of the council house.
God.
And what he does is he hosts one woman one night and the other one the next night. So
it's like Big Love. Did you ever see Big Love?
No, I didn't watch it, no. I'm hoping it wasn't this bad.
Oh, no, it wasn't a caravan. It was a house, 3 houses all next to each other.
Oh.
And I think it was like one night a week he'd go to one wife, then he'd go to the other wife and the other one. And it was very tiring. I don't know how he had the stamina for it.
I do not doubt it. So he's set this situation up where he's like this king of the house. He's got these 2 women much younger than him, and they literally, it's like a revolving door at the caravan, one night after the next, and he sleeps out there, comes into the house to meals and whatever else, but he essentially lives in the caravan with whoever's sleeping with him that night. Charming.
And the other one's in the house.
Yeah. Because somebody needs to be in the house because there's children, remember?
There's kids, of
course.
Yes,
remember the 2 women have brought one child each into the house from their own relationships.
I was trying to work out why the woman who he wasn't sleeping with wasn't in the caravan, because I would have thought that would be more his style, but it's because the kids are in the house.
Around. Yeah.
Now, this is where I need to...
sexy time in the caravan without the kids.
And whilst we're talking about children, Mick's been busy, as has Mairead and Lisa, making more children.
Wow.
And by the time we get to 2006, when, for a reason which I'll explain later shortly, is Mick gets in the public eye, he now has 4 children with Mairead and 3 with Lisa, plus the one that they both already had. And both of them are actually due to have a baby in March in 2007. So
that's 9.
For the one, it's like a baby factory.
11. Yeah.
In that house, correct.
Baby factory.
And it's very deliberate.
Ball jointed dolls or reborn dolls. Oh, quick, you touch the arm
The
here.
reason they want the babies is they
Council
want
money.
the welfare. Correct.
Yeah.
So this becomes a situation where more children, more money. He doesn't work. The women get the benefits for their other children and the children, and he they'll give all the money to Mick.
Nice work if you can get it. You can get it if you try.
Oh, God, it's just awful.
And the reason he comes to public attention is in 2006, he becomes heavily criticised in tabloid media when he requests a larger council house for his family, which by this time consists of his wife, Maureen, then aged 25, the mistress, Lisa Willis, then 22, the 4 children born to Maureen, the 3 to Willis, and Willis's child conceived prior to meeting him. I'm not sure where Maureen's child is. Maybe he's with his father, but he ends up back at the house. So there's a lot of people there. So the press are onto him and they're like, oh my God, who is this situation? Anyway, what do you think Mick Philpott does? Do you think he shirks away and go, oh, I've got that bit of a history and, I've got this situation here. I probably don't want to be sharing that with the world. I've got it all going. Absolutely not. Totally the opposite. This guy wants the world to know, oh my God, come on into the house. I want to show you who I am and what I'm about. I'm the big man. Look at this. I've got 2 women who can't keep their hands off me. I've got all these kids who adore me. I'm an awesome dad. I've
got a caravan out the front.
Oh my God. Yeah, this is the way it should be. This is what a man should do. So misogynistic. Oh my God, just unbelievable. But he courts fame. He starts to see that people are actually interested. He doesn't care that it's, good story, bad story, whatever else. It's a story, right? He's in the public eye. He's got a notoriety. Correct. That's it. Whilst he's being talked about in the tabloids, he's actually invited to appear on the Jeremy Kyle show. Now, I don't remember if you guys remember that from when you were in the UK, but it was kind of like something that was not dissimilar to like Jerry Springer, that kind of get them in, the more low rent, the more tortured, the more disadvantaged they are, the better the story will be.
It was disgusting.
Totally. So
really exploitative.
Absolutely. Mick Philpott comes in. Of course, they've got his wife in, one booth somewhere else and the mistress elsewhere, and they're asking him questions, and he's just like, I'm thinking of divorcing one. I'm thinking of divorcing my red so that I can then marry Lisa, because Willis is her surname, and I'd actually like us all to be Philpotts. That's the way he was thinking of doing it. Now, do you think,
not because he doesn't like her anymore, but they all need to have the same surname.
Just for the same name, yeah. He was just a pig. Absolute pig. So as a result of that,
pigs are nicer than that.
So he then he starts to be called his Shameless Mick. Now this also coincides with the TV program Shameless, which originated in the UK.
Does it? Yeah.
Yeah. So of course now I think there's an Australian version. There's definitely an American version. But Shameless, when Schmitty and I were in the UK, it was a big deal. It was it was a moment, a bit of a gut. Anyway, so Shameless Mick is what he then becomes known.
One of our other stories. Remember the woman who kidnapped her own kid?
Yep. Yes.
Because that was a Shameless episode.
Are we
profiling a particular type of individual when we do stories for the UK? I'm not sure.
If they were right for the picking. He's been in the tabloids. He's now been on Jeremy Kyle. And in 2007, Philpott actually appears in an episode of an ITV documentary series, which was called Anne Widdecombe Versus. And I don't suspect anyone would know who Anne Widdecombe is unless you were living in the UK at the time, but she was a very conservative MP. Like, I remember the way I sort of looked at her when I was there, although I really wouldn't have had any idea of her age, but I thought she was an old lady who was really crusty and, very proper and, oh my goodness, very, very English and, very set opinions, incredibly conservative. Anyway, she decides that she's going to go and try and challenge Mick Philpott's approach to the welfare system and how much more he could offer the world if he wanted to go and become employed and stuff. Anne Widdecombe spends a week with Mick and his family.
Oh, my God.
In an effort to persuade him to change his lifestyle. The Guardian reported that she gave him a large slice of her mind and decamped rather than sleep in the caravan.
Ooh. I don't blame her.
In her time there, she found Philpott 3 jobs, one of which was with a barrel making firm, but he didn't turn up for work on the first day, so that fell through. In the documentary, he was shown to be living in the caravan in his garden, in which his wife and mistress would alternate, spending different nights with him. Whitcomb said that Philpott did not care about anyone and that he used the word bitch to refer to both his wife and his mistress. And Whitcomb also said that she noticed that none of his children really sought affection from him.
That's the only bit so far that I'm not surprised about. The fact that he's referring to his wives as
Bitches.
And the kids don't seek affection from him. I mean, they seem both very consistent with everything so far.
Looking back at it, I do kind of remember the sort of the headlines and stuff, welfare benefit scroungers, benefit-funded lifestyle, 17 children. That's how many he ends up with in total.
Jesus.
17 children, 5 women, notorious, controlling, domineering, insidious, exhibitionist. Oh, my God. And I've got to tell you what they're doing in their sex lives. I've got this whole separate bit I want to tell you. There's a checklist of the shenanigans these people are up to.
I mean, I just want to be clear. I don't align with Anne Widdecombe and her politics. I just have to say that. She's a fucking MP, but, I'm a socialist, but I'm also not keen on the society paying for someone who just breeds children for the purposes of lining their own pockets.
Oh, my God. They're so open about that's what they're doing. Like, he just says, Gross. You can pay for me. So while they're loafing about...
I certainly saw a lot of this sort of behaviour while I was there. I mean, I'm not going to say that, you look around and you see people in council properties and think, oh, they're having children for the sake of getting a bit of bigger property. But absolutely witnessed it where people, and as we all know, my own property has been used for people who are effectively getting benefits to pay for the rent and then don't actually pay the rent with it. I don't know what they do with it. I'm going to assume drink it, drugs, whatever they like, but they're not paying the rent with it.
So have you seen the show Caesar Milan, the dog whisperer?
Yeah. No, but I know it, yes.
I'm wondering if Anne Widdecombe isn't the welfare scrounge whisperer, or maybe at least thinks that she
It didn't work.
Didn't work.
What was it? What was that thing, that meme I sent you earlier
failed
today?
Career move.
I think Anne Widdecombe would be quoting that.
Yes.
I'm not the fuck-face whisperer.
Face whisperer.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, God.
But she did try. Failed career.
So what that does mean, though, is there's an awful lot of footage. There's an awful lot of footage of him, like, in the house, on the phone, calling people, doing deals and just thinking he's the big man, like, trying to look really cool with his kids and, getting the women are sort of, like, waiting on him hand and foot. It's just, repulsive. It's so cringy. Right. And what was something else that they were doing at this point? So of the 17 children that were born, there was one that didn't make it, and that was a child or a pregnancy that resulted from one of Mick and Myriad's and Lisa's favourite pastime, which was dogging. It was such a big thing in the UK. I don't presume it is here, but oh my God. So dogging, in case there's anyone who doesn't know what it is.
Just before you go on to explaining what dogging is.
Yeah.
I was watching a Peter Kay thing the other day on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I think it's called Car Share. And he's with a colleague and they drive places, he drives her around. And in this bit, she goes, oh, I was dogging with my neighbour yesterday. And he goes, what? And she's like, yeah, my neighbour and I, Keith, he's like 78. We go dogging. And he's like, do you mean dogging? And she says, yeah, dogging, yeah. She is actually talking about walking her dog in the park. And he's like, no, do you really mean dogging? She's like, yeah, I mean, what else do you call it? Anyway, then eventually she meets some other bloke and she still thinks that dogging is just walking a dog. And then the bloke says something that makes her realise that dogging is what you're about to explain. And she just turns to Perry and goes, drive on. Anyway, tell us about dogging.
Okay, so dogging is a British English slang term for engaging in sexual acts in a public or semi-public place or watching others do so. There may be more than 2 participants, both group sex and gang banging can be included. As observation is encouraged, voyeurism and exhibitionism are closely associated with dogging. The people involved meet either randomly or increasingly arrange beforehand over the internet to meet up.
Do you remember the White Horse, the Westbury White Horse? There's
Yes.
a car park up there so you can go and look out over the Westbury White Horse. And I believe that was a good spot for dogging, I was told.
Well, this is why it was so prevalent in terms of it being talked about non-stop when we were there. And it says, in September 2003, height of our time there, BBC News reported on the new dogging craze.
Yeah, it was. It was a thing.
They cited the internet and text messaging as common ways of organising meetings. So there you go. It was originally...
Is it like a sexual flash mob?
It is a bit, yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah.
It used to be more based on spying on other people. That's where it sort of really originated. But then, of course, it developed into like everybody having an absolute, free fall and
sexual
making sure
flash mob. Otherwise, it was an orgy in an open space.
Well, the reason why it worked for someone like Mick Philpott, Mick Philpott is a total exhibitionist. He wants everyone to know what he's doing. He wants to have sex in public places. He wants people to watch him having sex and watch his wife and or mistress also be having sex. So he must totally
be good at it.
But as a result of one of the dogging interactions, I've forgotten
What's the George
which one
Michael
it was.
Song Outside? I feel like that is applicable here.
Yeah.
I think it was married. I could be wrong. I think it's married. She falls pregnant, and he says that she has to terminate that pregnancy because that was from dogging.
Not his.
He's got a moral compass all of a sudden. Here we go.
Yeah.
So
when you say from dogging, is it because it's not his, or is it because
it's not his?
She shouldn't be giving.
It's because he didn't insist that she knock off her eldest child, who she had from another relationship.
Yeah. Yes. He kind of took that child on his own, actually, in some ways, because that child does end up living in the house. But anyway, so where are we? So he's been on the documentary, he's been in the paper, he's been on Jeremy Kyle, and he ends
Swanny,
up...
is there a crime here?
We're coming to... So at that point, there isn't a crime. No, dogging I don't think is a crime. But what does go on to occur is that many years later, in 2012, Lisa Willis decides that she no longer wants to be with Mick Philpott.
Oh, no. We know what happens then.
I don't know if you
give me my records back.
Yeah, give me...
And you didn't have to cut me off. Send your friends to get my records and change your number.
So in early 2012, on the 11th of February, Lisa Willis takes 5 kids. So the one that she'd had when she was one was hers when she was a 16-year-old orphan, and the 4 that she'd had with Mick Philpott. Right. She takes 5 children and leaves the house. And that's a big chunk of coin for this family, and they're not happy.
Oh, yeah.
Correct.
Cost of living crisis.
Cost of living crisis. Myreed and Mick Philpott are in a situation where they're like, that's not going to happen. We need those kids back. We need custody of those children. We need
You can go, but not the kids.
Correct.
Oh, this is awful.
So there is due to be a court hearing on May 11th, 2012. So remember, she's left in February. It's now May. And
did
the court
he
hearing will
divorce
discuss...
What do you mean?
Marry her? So she's...
I don't believe so.
But they're still a de facto.
Yeah.
What's the court proceedings about?
Custody of the children.
He wants custody because he wants the money, right?
Yeah.
He needs the kids in the house. He's the guy who wants the bigger house. He's the guy who has as many kids as they possibly can. And I did read one thing which is kind of off to the side, but I thought it was such an interesting view into his mind. It was a young girl who said that she'd been raped by him. She was friends of the house. I don't really know much about her. It was just this one line that I really stuck with me. She'd gone out to take him a cup of tea in the caravan. I mean, that spells disaster for me. And apparently he then exposed himself and pulled her down the bed and raped her. And when he did so, he said, you want a baby with me. And I think that's what he did. He just thought that he would just make all these babies, fuck everything that moved, and get all these kids and all this money, because he was getting so much in terms of benefits, because it was like one child after another. That's so many kids in one house. It's insane. And what's he doing? He's out the front, root toot tootin', while the kids are living inside.
Root toot tootin'. He doesn't care about the kids. They're just a dollar sign for him.
Money.
I appreciate when you're going, it's just more and more.
And the women
right?
are just an opportunity they're vessels for creating more money.
February 11, Lisa Willis walks out. And then on May 11, Mick Philpott and Lisa Willis are due to go to court for custody to discuss it over I presume it'd be the 4, but she did take the 5 children with her. One of them was not his. However, at 03:46 a.m. on May 11th, an emergency services are called to a house fire at 18 Victory Road in Allerton, Derby, which is where the the Philpotts reside. When the fire department arrive, the house is fully ablaze, and Myreed and Mick Philpott are standing outside, sort of stunned, upset, stunned, quiet, watching, when there are two neighbours, two men from across the road who've come and who've attempted to get into the house and have been unable to because the fire was so intense that they were pushed back. The fire department bring 5 children out of the house. Jade Philpott, 10, and her brothers John, 9, Jack, 8, Jessie, 6, and Jaden, 5, are pronounced dead. They're all dead from smoke inhalation.
I thought you were going to say they were all okay, but she wasn't.
No. Dwayne Philpott, who was actually Myreed's first child. So Philpott was not actually his father, but
relationship.
Yeah. He survives. He's 13, and he's taken to Birmingham Children's Hospital. And the community's just absolutely devastated.
I don't even understand why you would do this, assuming it's not accidental, because they're your cash cow. Why would you do this?
Because your money, right? I mean, of course, there's all the other reasons you wouldn't do it too. But
they might not have done it.
Psycho, right?
From his head,
it could be an accident. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, could be an accident. Mick's the one who calls the police, and he's like, "Oh my God, my kids are stuck upstairs. I can't get in." And then the neighbours come from across the road, and the neighbours try so hard. The neighbours are just these 2 young guys who absolutely destroyed because they couldn't get into the house. They would try and go up back windows. And as one of them said, I was so close to Jade. She was on the other side of a window, but he couldn't get to her. Couldn't see her or anything, but he knew that that's where she was, her bedroom. So they take Dwayne to the hospital, and Mick and Myreed go to the hospital, and, they're sort of by his bedside. I've also seen footage where his best mate, who had been his best mate for a long time, ends up at the morgue, and they're looking at all these dead children. And he said, I was, the friend, he said, I was distraught. He said, I was sobbing uncontrollably. I couldn't believe I was looking at their children dead. And he was, kind of upset, but not massively. Myreed was sobbing, but again, she said, he said it was just not right. Then they've gone back to the hospital, and he said that at one point, Mick Philpott makes a sexual joke about a nurse whilst his son is in there still fighting for his life. And within a couple of days, Dwayne Philpott does die of injuries, smoke inhalation that didn't go. So that's all those kids just wiped out. And why was that? What was happening in the days that led up to that fire? Well, Mick Philpott had a plan, and his plan was that he had to get back at Lisa Willis. He had to frame her as the bad guy so he could get custody of the children. So what he started to do is he started to create this sort of narrative around Lisa, and he was saying that she had been threatening to firebomb their house. So he's down at the pub, he's telling people he's been working on this for some time. So, on the off chance that their house does catch on fire, I wonder who people are going to think that will be. So,
but he could have done it when the kids weren't in the house.
Oh, absolutely. I wonder why that all went wrong.
Where's Lisa at this point?
Lisa's not there. Lisa's probably, she would be in the same town or wherever she's gone with the kids, and she would have been due to turn to court that day, but I don't know. And every bit of footage that I've seen with Lisa, her face is blacked out, so I don't even know what she looks like or where her kids are. Thank God.
So she wasn't in the house with the kids.
She was not. No, the idea was that it was going to frame her for setting the fire.
Yeah.
They wanted everyone to believe that Lisa had created had been the.
So it was on his weekend with the kids, kind of thing. Was there?
No, not her kids. Her kids with her.
This is what makes no sense.
These are not her kids.
Oh my God! So
she's gone
missed
with
that.
her kids. It was just a target attacking him. Just attacking. It was supposed to be attacking him and their household, not particularly their kids.
His
him,
property.
Him.
Yeah.
Let's be clear. He sees these children as his property and these women.
So the fire's May 11, and the days that following. So the children have been taken to the morgue. There's a post-mortem that says, obviously that it was from smoke inhalation. We've got Dwayne Philpott fighting for his life and then losing it, and the Derbyshire police start their investigation, obviously immediate, and they think it has definitely been deliberate and there's suspicious circumstances. So at around about this time, the police very cleverly not very clever, I don't suppose they would have a choice, but they put up Mick and Marie in a Premier Inn motel. And they also invite their friend Paul Mosley. He ends up going over them. And whilst they're there...
For a good dogging time.
Well, interestingly enough, they've got the place bugged. And whilst they're there, they start talking about the plan that they had. And for good measure, Mick gets Myred to give
Bill a head job.
Paul Mosley a head job.
Oh, my God, I was joking. Oh,
because he's already in it, because they want to make sure he knows he's already in with them because he's been involved, and I will get to that. But this is what the police listening into. So they go, right.
What does her giving him a head job have to do with anything?
Because I'll get to that.
Bringing him deeper into the mix.
Myred, Mick, and Paul Mosley were the people that were complicit in.
Well, I get that
the plan, and we will get. I'll explain what happened.
I'm going to take you in the middle of it. But all right.
I'll tell you because I'm going to take you back to the night of the fire. But this is how things are actually coming out in terms of where the police investigation, what they're finding out. So they've now gone, okay, we had
solid
an idea.
move by the cops. That's good.
The Philpotts, they allow them, they call a press conference, and it's just, him crying, devastated. But not really, it just can't believe how kind everyone's been. It's thanking everybody, thanking the police. There's all these reporters. It's just crazy, you can imagine.
I bet Anne Widdecombe reached out at the time.
Oh, yes. But at the same time, the detectives are able to confirm that the fire didn't start beneath the letterbox, which is not when they go into a house, like your letterbox, your front door. Yeah. They were actually able to say, no, it actually started at the base of the stairs. And they were able to say that it was from gasoline. It was from fuel.
Oh, an accelerant.
Fucking dumb. I mean, really fucking dumb.
Yeah, exactly.
I swear everything he's done to this point has been so smart.
No, but it's just like it's...
So what happened on the night? So we need to get Derby, 2012.
I mean, it's not that long ago. You would know that forensically anyone could tell if there's an accelerant. And if you are going to say it got firebombed at the letterbox, set fire to the letterbox and then run your accelerant down the hallway.
No, they didn't think that. Well, they were not in their sound mind. And this is why I need to take you back. And this is where Paul Mosley. So on the night, this is what's just, it'll turn your stomach. So they put the kids to bed that night, knowing that they were going to light a fire beneath them, right? But they never expected the fire was going to take hold the way it did.
So they didn't actually anticipate killing the children.
Serious?
They didn't anticipate killing it. No.
Well, that's
correct.
I make me feel ever so slightly better that they didn't actually intentionally kill
that was not what
children.
They intentionally done. But apparently, it was all like plywood. It would have just gone straight up. So fuel, carpet, the whole.
It wouldn't have taken a genius to work it out, but they also didn't work out a lot.
But they were not
ignorance is no excuse.
They're not
and the night
geniuses.
that it happened, so they put the kids to bed, and their friend Paul Mosley was over, and they got Paul Mosley involved in the plan as well. Whilst they were getting ready, apparently they were smoking drugs and drinking. Then they had a threesome on the pool table to get Paul Mosley really involved. Apparently, they've got a pool table. I don't know where it fits in there.
All those children. They've got all that money.
That's correct. There's a threesome on the pool table. And then, I don't know if
got
Paul
whacked in the mouth with the
he
pool
was part
cue.
of it. He must have been. I don't know where Paul ends up he ends up, he's part of it. He was there with them doing it. But they're all so messy by the time they do it, sort of 3 a.m. or something. They're just out of their heads, fucked. Yeah, absolutely. Come on, let's do it. And then, of course, it takes hold too quickly. They can't get to the kids. I don't know. I just hadn't thought through. Just absolutely stupid. So the kids are upstairs. The fire's gone whoosh.
This is horrendous.
And the people from across the road, oh my God, watching them now, these men are absolutely broken. Yeah. They said when they went across the road, one of them, he said, it just kills me. He said, I apologized. I was weeping. I apologized to Philpott to say, I'm so sorry. I couldn't save your kids. I couldn't. And he said,
the fire he lit.
Yeah. And he said, I would do exactly the same thing again. He said, I would want someone to do the same thing for my kids. He said, I went there. He said, I would have lost my own life, even, for my own children, to save these children. I would hope that another man would do the same to save my children. But these men, oh my God, these brothers, they're so screwed up. They are just, they've watched the bodies of these children being brought out, burnt and smoking. Just horrendous. Awful. He talks about, one of the girls' hair was all black. Oh God, just really Absolutely
Demo
tragic.
lynching coming on from the guys across the road to film.
Yeah, they weren't real happy. So, Mick and Mairead Philpott are arrested on a suspicion of crime on May 29, and they are charged with murder on May 30. Leading up to this, there had to be a funeral for the children, and the local community dug really deep, and £15,000 was raised to pay for the funerals of the children. And Mick Philpott asked if the money that was left over, if he could get it in, you'll like this, Schmitty, Argos vouchers.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
I don't even think there's an Australian equivalent of an Argos.
No, we're not that chatty.
No, there's a business in the UK that is based on a catalogue. So you go through a catalogue and you can buy.
It's just a volume, though, isn't it?
Yes,
Like
the Argos catalogue. It's
massive.
It's a butt of so many jokes.
But it's cheap shit.
But, you can get everything. Cheap
it's
shit.
It's cheap shit.
And
I had Argos furniture. It fell apart after 5 minutes. It was shit.
Oh, God.
It's all I could afford when I first went there, but yeah.
It's so fantastic.
It's like the thickness of like an
Argos jewelry. That had a name.
Encyclopedia Britannica kind of thing, isn't it?
Yes.
Like
and it's got everything.
It's a good inch and a half thick or something.
I do wonder.
I couldn't even be bothered flicking through it. I was like,
no,
it's good read.
I don't know if I would presume now it's all done online, but I don't know. Maybe it's not.
But you'd go to the shop and you'd have ordered something, or you want
Elizabeth Duke,
or you want to order
the
something.
90 Argos over. It's Elizabeth Duke jewelry counter. I used to hear people laugh about Elizabeth Duke Argos jewelry.
Was that in Bridget Jones's Diary?
No,
it would have been for sure.
No, you're talking
she was
Argos.
She was online shopping all the time.
No, it was you're thinking about the bloke
watching the TV.
No, he was in the TV. He was presenting it, and he got more and more purple.
Yeah.
And here we have the replica jewellery of Her Royal Highness, the
that's right,
yes,
and Michael of Kent or something.
And Big Darling.
Yes. What was that called? Shop TV or
Home Shopping Network?
There was a channel on Foxtel. Yeah, it could have been
QVC.
Yes, yep.
Right. So
anyway, we digress.
And he also asked if there had been like a huge sort of memorial where people had been bringing teddy bears for all the children. He asked if the teddy bears could be then auctioned off so that he could make them and he'd be given the money from the teddy bears.
I mean, that's practical, isn't it?
He really started to upset quite a few people locally.
Because I don't have any kids anymore. I don't need the TVs. The teddy bears. Can someone else have them?
The trial commenced in Nottingham Crown Court on the 12th of February 2013. On the 2nd of April, Philpott and Mairead, along with Paul Mosley, were each found guilty of the manslaughter of the 6 children.
Manslaughter? Oh, yeah, they didn't intend to kill them.
Yeah. Philpott's previous criminal convictions were not revealed to the jury, so they never knew about Kim Hill. Yep. And I think they were disclosed to them on April the 3rd. I don't know why that happened. So it was due to take place on the 3rd of April, but was postponed as the judge, Mrs. Justice Thirlwell, wanted more time to consider the sentence. Philpott's previous criminal convictions, which had not been revealed to the jury, were disclosed at this point. I find that odd. On the 4th of April, Philpott was sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum tariff of 15 years.
Not enough.
Mairead and Mosley were each sentenced to 17 years.
6 counts.
Of which they would need to serve at least half before any release on licence. On
17 years, November, so they have to do 8.5 years.
On November 29, and so that with all those children, on on 29th of November, an appeal by Mairead against the length of her sentence, not the verdict, was heard. The grounds of the appeal were mainly that Mairead was under the control of her husband and could not exercise a free choice in her conduct. The appeal was dismissed, but she was released on licence in 2020 after serving half her sentence. So she's out. I did see this, the friend who was interviewed a number of times in the documentary I want, he received a letter from Philpott from prison early on, and all he was talking about was the fact that he and Mairead would go to the grave, they wanted to visit the children, but then they were going to rape each other. That's what he wrote in a letter.
Who did?
Mick.
Oh.
Mick wanted
rape each other.
Rape each other. They just couldn't wait. They were just hornbags. And this man is...
Well, how is it rape each other? If you're hornbags and you're consenting, it's not rape. It's just fuck each other.
I know, right? I know. But that was the word he used. He chose to use that word.
Oh, my God.
So I think That is the story of Shameless Mick Philpott,
Shameless
who
Mick,
had
is he
17
right?
children to 5 women.
And killed
But the
5
fact
of
that
them.
I
Or
think
6, was it? 6, 5, 6.
six. All right, 6. Well,
Ugh.
there was one of them was somebody else's child, but
But
yes.
still killed the kids in the household,
Yeah.
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 So hang on,
and
5
one of the
went away with Lisa.
yes, one was hers
6
and
were
4 were
killed, so that's
his.
11.
Yeah.
Where are the other 6?
The ones that he had with other relationships, remember,
Right,
before
okay.
that.
Right.
Yeah. So
Dogging.
one of the things
There'd be a
I
couple
found,
for dogging that he doesn't even know about.
No,
the photographs of the children in their school uniforms are lovely. These kids
poor
look
little
like
things.
great kids. The reality is, God knows growing up in an environment like that what you end up becoming. But they were great kids. They all went to, well, actually, that's not true. The ones that died, the eldest one was at a different school, but the 5 younger ones went to St. George's Catholic School, and their head teacher, a lady called Patricia, oh God, I've written it down, I can't remember, I'm writing Hurrell. She wrote this really beautiful thing and was like, this is such a huge part of our community. It affects so many classrooms and so many teachers and children. And then they find out that their own parents did it to them. What a nightmare to try and deal with that in a school environment, right?
So gross.
Horrendous. Just horrendous. So I guess I'm intrigued as to what you make of all of this. I think some of the themes that I really find quite interesting about it are what people watch and put up with and allow to happen and listen to. Has life got any better? Like, we certainly start talking about Kim and her getting knocked in the mouth. But then when his friend comes out and starts talking about the way he always spoke and it was all about sex, he was still kind of, okay, you talk to that guy's wife when she talks about it. She's like, she was, she's talking about right, she was a bitch. She was this, she didn't care. No mother does it. Like, she's got no time for them at all. But I wonder if that was always the case. Like, at what point do you ever call people out on what they're doing? I guess someone like Mick Philpott, who's such a showboater, he just thought he was such hot shit. He would have been, I don't know, people must have thought he was awful, right? But big man, got all the kids, got the notoriety on the TV, so then do you try and stay on side with him? I find that quite an interesting kind of area to investigate. And then there's sort of this welfare state, these people who are rewarded essentially for continually going and having children, and then they don't break any cycles. It just makes these things worse for their own kids. Like, really wonder what those children's life would have been like. I just wonder. Some probably would have gone and made a go of it. Some definitely wouldn't, which I guess is of every household. But oh my God, the examples that Mick Philpott was setting in that house for any child is just, imagine how screwed up he'd been. Imagine the stuff that those kids saw all the time. Ugh. Ick. That's my ick.
Yeah, it's awful. The thing that gets me out of that is the last bit around the welfare state. I almost think that they're enabling this sort of behaviour. I mean, in any system where there's an opportunity to take advantage of it, there are going to be people who will do it, whether they do it, in a highbrow way, a lowbrow way, whatever it is. But this bloke is absolutely a bottom feeder taking advantage of a system that is designed to keep people in a certain standard of living, not about trying to use welfare as a cash cow by just having babies all the time. But at what point do people who aren't like that go, mate, enough? If you have one more, we're chopping it off. Like, or we'll glass rod you, or I don't know. I think that there needs to be something. We'll get Sada Abe to make a frickin' bag of dicks out of you and your friends.
I think people are probably frightened of someone like
that.
Yeah,
I think you're right.
And I could tell you, the street that I lived in the town I lived in, down the end of the road, there were some people who I would say were probably council type people. Yeah. And their kids would come up, bang on your window. Like, they were frightening. They were just kids. And fortunately, I had people next door. One was a teacher at the school who'd come out and yell at them, and then they'd run away because we knew who they were. Yeah. But they were quite frightening. You'd go down to the local shop and the kids would be hanging out, and they were frightening. And so I think there are lots of people who live in that situation who just say, I just want a quiet life, and I don't want them looking at me twice. I'm just going to smile and wave and walk by. So I don't think people do call this out, is my point, Paul.
No, I think
no, but I'm talking about the system. The system that says, like in a corporate environment, you do a good job, we pay you more money. You get welfare, you do a shit job, we pay you more money. Like, what are you rewarding?
We pay the money directly to the services. So if they went to a Catholic school, right?
But my point is, let's call out the bad behaviour of the system before we go into solution. But that's terrible. That
I think there's one sentence here that
there's
totally
no limit.
sums that up, Clarky. And it was written in an article back in 2013, and the headline was, "Michael Philpott is a perfect parable for our age. His story shows the pervasiveness of evil born out of welfare dependency." And the opening sentence is, "His house, his booze, his drugs, his women and his 17 children were paid for by a benefit system meant to be a safety net for the truly needy." And it's true, right?
Yep, for sure.
Well, in fairness, his 17 children were truly needy. They had shit parents. They needed a roof over their head. They needed the benefits to put them through schooling. So I
don't know that that's...
Well, not true. Those 17 kids should have been where?
Well, so I think they shouldn't have been in that house for one, but I think this is the point around, do we keep throwing money at someone so they keep having kids, so they keep getting more money? Or do we go, enough, we take the kids off, you don't get more money, there's actually zero money, and we look after the kids with the money that you might have got. This is the bit where I go, the welfare system is either enabling people to keep doing this kind of behaviour and then rewarding them for it.
Which is why I was saying,
we go,
even though you said don't solve it, if the money was paid to the services for the children, like the school or, whatever, it doesn't go through the parent. If the parent is having multiple children for the purpose of filling their purse. It is like Woods's. I'm on my 4th chutney. That was an upsetting story. Anyway, I'm ready to sentence.
So you're spot on with take the money away. I agree with it. I just thought it was
incentive for them,
but not from those who need it.
Call that the welfare.
Yep.
No, take the money away from him and put it towards services. I agree with that 100%. I just feel like there was a bit of exploration to do around how bad it is that we've got people who work in welfare, who make decisions around welfare, who aren't necessarily needy, but who enable these people.
I don't understand why, if he was capable of working, why he was not forced to prove why he couldn't work, right? So I think it's absolutely adequate and appropriate for a person who cannot support their children, say you've got a disability or mental illness or whatever, but where was that ever defined?
That's where the difference is, right? He didn't just a penny.
Well, at some point you might
chop the dick off before you get to 17
have
kids
the snip,
on
but that's you can't put that on people.
Of course you can.
In Trouble One World you might be able to, but you can't really. You can't go and say we're going to sterilise this man because there's enough of his seed in the world. The children were not the issue here.
No, it's not about how much of his seed is in the world. It's about the fact that he needs everyone else to pay for him to keep doing that. That's
then just cut the benefits off. I don't think you can go to a fascist state and say
his dick off.
No, see, that's where you're going. Sterilisation. You can't do that.
You talk about glass rodding. You can't say you can glass rod some people, but you can't chop the dicks off others.
This is our cap, right? You've got enough. And if you keep having children, you just have to deal with that, and you need to support that within the means that we are giving you.
Puts the kids. That's the problem.
I don't think so. I think
get the upbringing they need.
No, because the whole point of this is that these children were the incentive for more money. If you say after 5 kids, it doesn't matter if you have 20, mate, you're not getting any more money. The people who are producing children for the purposes of getting more money will not produce more children. There's no benefit for them to do so.
What if he goes dogging and they have kids?
Well, he had to terminate that
because
child.
That's their...
No, he had to terminate it.
Mm.
Well, God.
Anyway.
Aren't we becoming a great society now?
We are.
Chop his dick off.
All right, glass rod. I've got a sentence. Do you want to hear it?
Go. I do. I really do.
Firstly, I was going to sentence all 3 of our lovely perpetrators, Mr. Mosley and Mr. Philpott and old Mariette, yeah, but I am not sure about her because I do think he was a terrifying, controlling bastard. And I think that she might have been a big sex pot, but it's all part of the control. It's all part of the manipulation. So I'm going to park her for a second over in the corner, and you sit there, Mariette. I'll think about what I'm going to do with you. But for the other two, and yeah, look up Phil Mosley. As far as I can tell, got nothing more than a head job out of this,
and a threesome.
And a threesome, and he's paid a pretty significant price for his part in it, but he did inadvertently kill 6 kids. But certainly for Philpott, I'm going to put him in a brazen bull.
In a brazen bull? What's that?
Here we go. What's that?
Okay, you
on.
guys, did you never do anything about, ancient torture?
Ancient tortures? No.
No, we can't say we have.
But we know that's exactly where you're going. We just don't know what it is.
Brazen bull, otherwise known as the bronze bull or Sicilian bull, or the bull of Phalaris, was where you put a person in a big bronze statue, but it's hollow, and they set a fire in it and they roast them slowly in the bronze bull.
Oh,
that's a method of torture and execution, and it's very nasty.
It sounds nice.
It doesn't sound nice.
No, it's not nice. Yes.
That was an actual bull?
Yes, it was shaped like a bull, and they sort of...
So it just sits on a fire?
Sits on a fire, and the person's head was aligned with the bull's head. Fire sat beneath it, heated up the metal, so you were basically slowly roasted to death.
Oh.
It was very nasty, yeah.
That's savage.
Oh, God.
And
but I'm liking it.
I mean, what a lovely end to a lovely story.
Earlier on, I was so angry and incensed by the whole thing that I was like, really bad torture with fire. And I was like, yep, that's it. Brazen bull. Done.
Brazen bull. Righto.
I think for Mr. Mosley, I feel like he probably has, notwithstanding whether or not he's a complete psycho, but I think he was just caught up in this with the wrong crowd, did something that was terrible. And I think the allure of the sex from Mariette was probably enough. And I don't think that they intended to kill the kids. Phil's cavalier attitude is what disturbs me the most. But I feel like the other two probably were victims of him a bit too. So maybe they could just have a light roasting in the bull, but they get to come out and
just
not quite.
Third-degree burns or burns.
Yeah. Over to you guys.
I think I'd like to make Phil impotent, but I'd like to have it done sort of like
from when he was 15.
Well, certainly I want it to be somehow connected to the Jeremy Kyle show. I want there to be some kind of reveal where he goes from thinking he's all that and he's got all this control over these women or whatever else, and I want the tables to be turned just so that he has no women, he has no way of creating more children. He's exposed as being this sort of
violent psychopath
who's impotent, and then everyone just goes, oh, no, thank you, and he's totally
I mean, he could do that, expunged. Or you could go back to before he attacked his first victim.
Yeah.
And just pick him up and go, why are you going out with a 16-year-old, you filthy fuck? And,
See, that's not so bad in the terms of what was going on at that time. I don't have an issue.
We put a cultural context over it, and I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I think the same cultural context is why that 16-year-old girl sat in that pub having been smacked in the face, and no one said anything because they just saw her as a dumb fucking slag.
Yeah, that's right.
That is what was wrong with society then, and still in certain situations continues.
You're not wrong. Clarky?
She was just a kid.
That's very true.
So I was having thoughts of what I wanted to do on Swanny. I'm going to tweak it a little bit because you wanted something done on, what was the
Jeremy
show?
Kyle.
Jeremy Kyle. Maybe he needs to be raped with a pool cue.
So what I'm thinking is, I think there's two problems here. I think there's him, like he's obviously the problem, and I'm not happy about the system that enables him to do what he does. I think he and everyone around him is a cracking case of it's all good fun till someone loses an eye.
Yes.
But the eye he's going to lose is the eye of his penis.
Oh.
But you know how they do the green dream when they put people to sleep.
Yeah.
So on the Jeremy Kyle show, they're going to strap him in and they're going to put a hot poker right near the edge of the eye of his penis, because that's the eye he's going to lose. And then they're going to show what's happened in the past from everyone else's perspective. So no more him doing his, look how good I am, blah, 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 but all of the things he's done and how that's affected everyone around him. And then you know how on elections they have the worm and you can turn as to whether you like it or you don't like it? So every time you turn to you don't like it, the hot rod gets closer. And every time you turn to you like it, it goes further away. Because I just think very quickly everyone's going to go, don't like it.
Bang.
You lose an eye. But I think that's what I would like to happen, because then it covers your bit of being public and everyone kind of understanding, but also that whole thing of it's all good fun till someone loses an eye. Like those poor children that he picked up who, you know, they were 30 years his junior. It's not like he's some, you know, similarly aged person and they've fallen in love. He's being an absolute control freak pig, trying to take advantage of people who think that he's going to solve their problems, but in fact he's going to add to them. So I think they're in it for the fun, thinking initially he's going to make things better, and then once he's roped them in, he's just an absolute asshole. So just beware of the fun you're having, because it might lose you an eye.
That's right.
Thank you, Swanny, for bringing us that disgusting story. Yes. And as we say every week, miss you already.
Ciao.
Ciao. Bye. Thanks for listening to Trial by Wine. You can contact us at trialbywine@gmail.com. Please rate, review and subscribe to Trial by Wine on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to support us, you can become a patron at www.patreon.com, Trial by Wine, or visit our website www.trialbywine.com to donate to us. Your support will help us cover many more cases and apply wacky sentences. We really appreciate you listening and hope you tell everyone about us. Our cover art is by John Christo and music is by Beauchamp from pixabay.com.